Alrighty, good morning. What we're going to do is talk about jacks and jack stands this morning. Not this kind of jack or that kind of jack. We're talking about jack stands and jacks. Jacks that you lift up your car with and jack stands that hold your car up while you want to work on it. This is level 2 stuff, easy stuff, so you can start work on your car. We're going to go through a little bit of what those are, why you need them, the importance of using certain jacks versus other jacks, and maybe the size of jack you might need or jack stand you might need for your car, and the safety portion of that. So without further adu, I'm going to grab my tea over here. You guys know I can't start my day without my tea. I'm going to start my tea, and we're going to start walking through some jacks and jack stands. See you guys later. Alrighty, coming to you from my post-production hotel room on a work trip here. Alright, we're going to talk about scissor jacks. Scissor jacks are the jacks you're going to find in your car that you use to change your tire out when you get a flat. Oftentimes it's in the spare tire itself, it's inside it, small, compact, or it's near your car in a small pocket or something like that. If you've never changed your tire or removed your tire with your scissor jack in your car, I would encourage you to break out your owner's manual one day, break that out and learn how to change your tire while you're on a nice flat surface. It's a beautiful day, not when it's raining, not when it's snowing, not when it's dark on the side of the road, when you will have to do it. That way, when you've done it once in a nice beautiful day, you have to do it on the side of the road. It's much more easier and less stress. All right, next we got bottle jacks. Oh, I didn't say a bottle of jack, I said bottle jacks. Bottle jack is a smaller, compressed hydraulic piston jack that you can use to lift up a car. Now they're super powerful for a small, compact use of them. You just use a pump to raise them up. They have a larger capacity as far as lifting concerned for the size they are. You can get them from 2 ton, 3 ton, whatever, all the way up. Now I would not encourage them as a first-time user because they can be unstable if you're not careful, or if you put them in the wrong spot, they can slip off the item that you're trying to lift up. So if you don't have experience jacking, I would not encourage you to use that as a starter jack per se. Now, if anybody more experienced out there and tell me I'm wrong, leave the comments below. But I'm trying to encourage safety here, and I would not encourage that as a first-time user. Do they have their place? Definitely. I use them all the time. If you find them at an auction or a garage sale or something like that and you want to try it out, go ahead. But I would not encourage as a first-time user, and you'll see why after you use it once. Okay, next, a floor jack. Now this is a rolling jack. It typically has stationary wheels up front, or non-swivel wheels up front, swivel wheels in the back. You can move it around and get it underneath the vehicle and get it placed where you want it. It has a larger handle, pretty large handle out there, sometimes 4 foot, 6 foot long. Mine I think is about 5 foot long to help provide the leverage to lift your vehicle. They're probably the safest because they're the most stable in my opinion, but again, that's my opinion. You get what you pay for here. And that's what I would encourage you to start with. We'll talk about sizes and what size of jack you need for purchase later, but that's what they're used for. Now, what if you have that really cool lowered BMW wagon like I got in this picture, or something that's low to the ground? How do you get it up on a jack? We got 2 options. You can drive that vehicle up onto some blocks and just keep raising it up until you can get a jack underneath it. Or the other option is a nice low profile jack. They are smaller. They sometimes are only about 2 or 3 inches high, and you can roll them underneath the vehicle and get it under there. The downside is they're pretty expensive, but they're very handy. I have a somewhat medium in between low profile jack. Mine's not really squatty, but it is a lower profile. You'll see that later in the video. All right, now the simplest of all is ramps. Now we're not talking about this ramp, but we're talking about a metal device or a plastic device that you can drive your vehicle on to get it up off the ground to do an oil change or look underneath it. Now they're probably the simplest and probably the safest because you don't have a chance of anything falling off. Now the downside is if they can move around, if you don't get them placed, they're kind of fidgety, but once you get them up there, they're super stable and they aren't gonna go anywhere. They're probably the cheapest as well. I think I looked around, and we'll show some prices later, but I think maybe around $50 to $75 you can get a set of ramps. The downside of a ramp is you can't do any work on those wheels that you just drove up on. That vehicle is stationed on those wheels, and you can't do anything with that. It's great for working on the vehicle and brings it higher up if you're a taller person like I am and you don't want to bend over, or if you want to do an oil change, that helps out as well. Additionally, ramps are handy if you have a low profile vehicle. If the ramp's angled correctly, you can just drive up on the ramp and not have to mess with having a low profile jack. There's advantages and disadvantages of ramps. So I personally don't have any. I've never really used any. We're going to demonstrate some. I borrowed some from First Sergeant. You can make your own, as in this picture. Okay, you decide, hey, I'm going to work on my vehicle. I need to jack it up, put it on some jack stands. But the question is, where do I start putting that first jack on to lift the vehicle up off the ground, and where do I put these jack stands to support the vehicle so I don't damage my vehicle? Well, this is why I put the owner's manual and repair manual as one of the very first videos. It's very important. If you go to your owner's manual, it's going to tell you where to support your vehicle when you're jacking it up. This is very important because if you don't do it carefully, you can damage it. You can damage your vehicle. I don't want to scare you. It's pretty simple. If you follow the directions and follow the diagrams that are given for you, it's pretty easy to put this car up on a jack. Okay, with the newer cars, we don't have these old frames that run the whole length of the car that you can just throw a jack on and a jack stands and make it nice and easy. The way the cars are built nowadays, they have what's called a pinch weld. So you have the lower body of the vehicle and the upper body of the vehicle, and the manufacturer squeezes them together and then they weld them at the bottom, called a pinch weld. Now that pinch weld is very structural and it helps you keep a nice rigid item. Basically, it's equivalent to a mini frame down there, so you have to be careful not to damage it. Now, how do you not damage it while lifting? Because your owner's manual is going to tell you where to lift and where to do that. But you still need an adapter to help you jack up the vehicle without crushing it, as in this picture. Crushing that pinch weld is not good. It's causing structural damage to the vehicle. Now there's adapters you can put, the yellow puck, those are really handy as well as there's also an adapter you can put on your floor jack to put on that pinch weld itself. Now I prefer this latter version. It goes right on the floor jack, it bolts it right up. If people have experience using those and more experienced people watching, please leave your comments below. If you have something that you like, please link to that so I can pass that on as well and I can learn. But that's why you need to use these adapters so you don't crush that pinch weld. Very important. On a little bit of a side note, there are some European cars out there like BMWs and Mercedes that have actually tubes that are on the sides of the vehicle. They have covers that you can put rods in there and jack up the vehicle on that. I'll show you a quick picture. So if you have a Mercedes or a BMW or a car that has that, it doesn't hurt to buy that adapter. They're pretty handy. You don't even have to crawl into the vehicle. They just slide in the side and pop them out. Now the danger of that is you're going to keep popping those covers out and ultimately you're going to damage the plastic. So I'd encourage you to buy some spares later. That way you have them there. We just lifted your vehicle up using that jack, not destroying those pinch welds, using that diagram in your owner's manual where to lift it up at. Now we need to put that vehicle back down on some jack stands so you can work on it, take those wheels off, etc. Using that same owner's manual, you're going to put that jack stand underneath the right points. Additionally, you have pinch welds still, you want to protect those. Just like the jack stand is going to have a weight bearing capability here. So we're going to look at that. If you have a big vehicle, you're going to go with a bigger jack stand. If you have a smaller vehicle, you can go with a smaller. But I encourage you to find something in the middle where you can carry the weight of a larger vehicle. When you buy them, you only have to buy one set of jack stands throughout your life. Go from there. So I would recommend somewhere around a 3-ton jack stand. That'll carry anything small. It'll carry anything large, like a large Suburban or a large SUV throughout your life. As well as with the jacks, you have jack stands, adapters to prevent that pinch weld from destroying that. That's where you're at with jack stands. Not a whole lot to them. They're pretty simple. All right, here's a couple quick pictures of what not to do. People are ingenious about how they're going to lift up the car and jack it up and hold it up. As you can see in this first picture, the guy's holding up the vehicle with it looks like a 2x6 and a muffler. Don't do this. Be safe. Use the precautions that I'm giving you for tips, as well as follow the manufacturer's instructions or any repair manuals instructions as well. Be safe. Okay, now you're like, okay, I'm going to buy a jack and some jack stands, but what size do I need? How much do I need to spend? How much you spend is up to you, your individual budget, but I would tell you, in general, as a good mechanic, I would encourage you to don't go cheap, because especially jacks and jack stands, these are permanent life items. I've been playing and using the same jack. It's a teal jack with a white handle that my dad's had for years. I remember it as a kid and I've used it, I don't know, about a month ago. So it's been around my entire life and I'm not young and he's had it for a long time. I know he's rebuilt it once and put some oil in it, but they're a lifetime investment. So spend the money right up front so you don't have to replace them later. Same things with jack stands. They're metal devices. They're not going to go anywhere as long as you protect them from the rain. Don't leave them out in the snow and all that sort of stuff. They're going to be a lifetime investment. How much you want to spend is up to you. Now, how big? Well, if you have a little Morris Minor here, the car only weighs maybe 3,000 pounds. The average car, the Ford Taurus or the Subaru out there, they're weighing right around 4,000, 4,100 pounds. The large SUVs, they're approaching 7,000 pounds. They're getting kind of hefty these days. So you want a jack and jack stands to maybe accommodate any future vehicle growth weight you're gonna have. So you're single now and you have a nice sports car, but you know probably in the future you're gonna grow and get married and have kids and all that sort of stuff. You can buy a jack that'll accommodate you working on that bigger vehicle in the future. So I personally own a 4-ton jack that accommodates anything I need, as well as when I had them, I had 3-ton jack stands. Now I don't have them anymore because if you've watched my videos at all, I have a 10,000 pound lift in my garage, so I don't need jack stands anymore. I would encourage around 2.5 ton, 3-ton jacks, anything that you're gonna wanna put on those in the future. Large vehicles, large trucks. Now, if you go with bigger jack stands, as far as weight is concerned, they're typically taller, and that gives you a little bit more profile and high ground clearance. You're gonna see it later in the video. I have some 6-ton jacks that I'm using as an example, as in 2.5-ton jacks, and you see the height difference. Oftentimes the bigger jacks will give you a higher height and you don't necessarily need the weight, but you like the height. So that's one way to look at it. Okay, what I got going on here is I got the ramps. We're gonna drive the truck up on that. I got the truck outside warming up. I've actually been working inside the garage without the truck. Been doing a lot of remodeling the house. It's nice and heated. So I've just been keeping the garage nice and warm for me. Working in here, cutting tile, all that sort of stuff. So I've had the truck out there. That's the downside of having a 2-car garage. You just gotta make room, so that's the way it is. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna drive the truck up on the ramps, show you how those ramps work. All right, here we go. All right, you gotta carefully line up these jacks, these ramps, as you drive the truck in. So I'll drive the truck in, put the ramps in front of the wheels, and drive up on them. Job of driving up on the ramp without going off the edge there. These are homemade ramps, so they don't have ability to stop you. I suppose if you could build your own, you could put a stop at the end. So that's the advantage. You could crawl underneath there, do a little bit of oil change, get under there. Safety thing before you climb underneath that vehicle while it's still up on the ramp is I have the parking brake set, but you also want to put a chalk in there or some type of brick or a block or something to prevent this truck from rolling off of there. Alrighty, that's ramps. That's the nice thing about ramps. They're fairly easy to use, nothing complicated, and you don't have to worry about damage in the vehicle. All right, we're gonna talk about jacks and jack stands. This type of jack, not this type of jack. So I have a 4-ton, 4-jack, low profile. I talked about profile jacks. And the reason why I have that is I had a car that was pretty low and it helps slide right underneath it. So if you have a BMW or a Mercedes or something like that, it's a little lower, or any other car that's got a lower profile, low ground clearance, you want something like this. Now I have a 4-ton because that carries a pretty good sized vehicle. I can lift it up. That's why I have that. It also has a nice big handle for leverage. So we all learned in physics, the more lever you have, it makes it easier to pump down there. Now, talked about jack stands and size of jack stands. To give you equivalent, so we talked about tonnage. So this is a 2.25 ton jack stand. I borrowed these from First Sergeant, and it says the capacity is 4,500 pounds. Now, as we mentioned, that's really what you want to do is have a jack stand about that size for a pretty good sized vehicle. So 4,500 pounds, your average SUV is right around 6,000, maybe 7,000 pounds. So you know that it'll support the front end of a vehicle this size of jack stand. They look really puny in comparison to these. This is a 6-ton jack. Now that's a huge jack stand. This is a little bit overkill for the home use. These are probably more for agriculture use, tractors, etc., which is probably where First Sergeant got them. Maybe at a farm auction, I'm not sure, I'll have to ask him. They're a little bit overkill. You don't really need them for a home use or even a large SUV. 2.5 ton, 3-ton jack, this size will do. What we're gonna do is start showing you how these works. I'm gonna use these big ones because they're easy to use. and there it is safer. Keep in mind, if you got an epoxy floor like I do, right down there, you're gonna wanna put something underneath those jack stands so it doesn't imprint in there or scratch on the floor. I don't think the epoxy floor is meant to hold all that weight at each individual little corners of these jacks. So we're gonna do that. I'm gonna find some carpet to put down. So luckily I'm doing a remodel, so I can go cut some out if I don't have any. But all right, we're gonna show you how to do that. All right, I got my safety gloves. Don't forget to wear those. I wear these mechanics gloves. I've worn them for years. They're great. I'm not advertising for them, but I can tell you they are great gloves. Keep my hands warm right now in the garage, but we're gonna get going. Make sure you wear safety gear. Alrighty, I got my jacks stands over on the side of the vehicle. I have my jack standing by, and what we're gonna do is we're going to jack up the vehicle. I'm gonna put the jack underneath a nice big cross member. We talked about proper placement of that. There's a nice big cross member that we can use to jack it up. Make sure you don't slip and hit the oil pan. You don't jack it up and hit the front balance or anything like that. You want a nice sturdy thing. Again, remember to go back to your owner's manual. If you don't know where it's at, check your owner's manual. Don't start jacking if you don't know where it's a safe spot to do that. A lot of cars are damaged. Alrighty, so we're gonna start jacking this up and we'll show you the proper placement of jack stands. Remember, when it's all said and done, you wanna put a block or something up behind the wheels. Make sure it's nice and safe. On my nice big board here, I'm gonna put this behind the wheels so when I start jacking up, the truck doesn't roll back. I do have the parking brake set, but we wanna be doubly safe and make sure we don't go anywhere. Now, if you're trying to figure out where to go right where the center of the vehicle is, remember there's always a license plate in the middle, so you try to put it up center of the license plate. Alright, make sure it's sturdy on the jack before you start going all the way up off the ground. The wheels are starting to come off. Now the height you bring it up is depending on what kind of work you want to do. If you're just doing an oil change, you don't need to have it up as high. If you're going to get up under doing some major work like shocks or things like that, you want the more clearance, the better. Alright, she's up. She's off the ground. So now we're gonna put some jack stands in. I have a nice big frame down here that I can bolt to, so that's where we want to be. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this jack stand right here, put it in frame, in line with this frame right here. Also, you want to look across this direction. Zoop. You want to look across this direction, make sure they're in line as well. So you kind of line them up, make sure they look across, approximate. You don't have to be perfect, no rulers, no needed. Eyeball works. All right, we got our jack stands in. Now we're just going to gently lower it down. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. We're going to go left and start lowering the vehicle. Gently. Jack is about this far from the cross member. You want to leave it there until you make sure those jack stands in the right spot. So if anything falls, you have a secondary initial jack to prevent it from falling off the jack stands. We're gonna go check our jack stands and see how we did. Alrighty, just so you kind of review things, we got the jack stand on the carpet to protect the epoxy floor. That's just more of a pretty thing. We got the jack stand supporting the frame. We're not putting on like the body mount here. This is what supports the body itself. You're not putting on that exhaust up there. You're not putting on a cross member there that supports the transmission. You just want to make sure you're putting in the right spot. Sure as heck, don't put it up here. If you're not sure, refer to your owner's manual and don't jack up your vehicle until you're 100% sure. Again, there's a cross member view there. The jack is holding up there just in case, just an added safety feature. Again, you can see where the oil filter is up there. Now, if I had to change that oil filter, that jack would probably be in a bad spot. Same thing with the oil. So you don't want to take that jack out. Perfectly safe to do that. Just, I'm encouraging additional safety features while you're working. Okay, we're gonna talk about safety a little bit here and make sure it's clear to everybody. Make sure I try to get across what I can. Again, we have our jack stands in place. They are secure. We also have the vehicle blocked so it doesn't roll back. Additionally, I would encourage you to keep the jack that you're using to jack up the vehicle nearby or even attached still, so you have 3 points of attachment. Now, if you're trying to do an oil change, the jack is going to be in the way, so you can roll it out of the way. There's no problem moving it. It's just an extra safety feature to make sure you are protected. Why you want to have the extra jack around is just in case you're moving on the vehicle and you rock it off the stand accidentally, or it gets unstable, at least it's there to protect you as well. It's a secondary protection. Now we got the vehicle up on the jack stands. We can can leave the jack in its place. That's why mine has a handle that I can take apart and move it out of the way. That's a nice handy part, is you're not gonna hit your knee on it, well, it's not gonna be in the way. So now that we got that, we can do all of our work that we wanna do. We did all the work we needed to do. We're gonna take out these jack stands. We're gonna jack the vehicle back up, pull the jack stands out, lower the vehicle back down, make sure we leave the block behind the wheel until it's all said and done. Then we'll take it out for safety again. Don't want it rolling away while we're putting it on the jack stand, going from the jack stand to the jack, because the wheels on the jack will roll if you're not careful. So you want to make sure it's blocked. All right, there's enough air between the jack stand and the frame. When you pull out the safety pin, you pull this lever handle here, it drops away, and you can slide this out of the way. Nice impressions in the carpet. This is why you try to protect your epoxy floor. Make sure you pull your jack stands away from the vehicle so you don't accidentally lower the vehicle back on the jack stands or on the body or something like that. Just keep them away from the vehicle, pull them farther away. I got 2 feet away from the vehicle, so we're good. Now, again, it's just the reverse of when you raise it back up. We're just gonna lower it slowly down. There we go. Truck didn't roll away because it's blocked. All done. All right, so I just showed you how to use jacks and jack stands properly, as well as using a block to make sure the vehicle doesn't roll away while it's on the jack. Now, you want to make sure everything's out from underneath the vehicle, all your tools are picked up, all that sort of stuff before you start driving the vehicle out of the garage or wherever you're at, so you don't hit anything or damage anything. All right, if you guys got any questions about this, leave in the comments below. If you like what you see, hit the like button. If you really like it and you want to keep watching more, please smash the subscribe button. If you know anybody gained from my knowledge or you like the videos, you want to share it, please do so. I'm trying to increase my subscribership and my viewership so YouTube can see what I'm doing and therefore I can provide better content to you. Additionally, if you really like what I'm doing and you want to see more in-depth detailed things, please let me know. Leave it in the comment button. I'm thinking about doing a Patreon account which will provide additional detailed items. We talk about more in-depth stuff and videos, but I need to know that that's out there and the request is out there for that before I start doing that. It is quite a little bit of an expense. So if you would be interested in being a Patreon member, please let the like button down there or hit the comments, let me know, send me a personal email and what you're looking for. I'm here for you. I'm doing what I think people might need. Again, I'm a long ways from being a junior mechanic. So if I'm missing something, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to do a video especially for you guys. If you want a special video, again, that's what maybe Patreon's for. So please let me know what you think about that. Thank you for everything. Thank you for the support. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Check me out on Instagram. I put a few little tidbits out there of things coming up. All right, more importantly, mechanic safe, be safe. Talk to you guys later.